Rocky Road to America.
Rocky Road to America.
So how did everyone in my family get
Sure.
there?
Right.
Here?
And that went out. That's been out for a while.
Oh yeah, that's been out 10 years now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sophomore. So it's time for that sophomore pitch.
Yeah, it took a little while.
Stepped off the boat at Boston, gonna make me a new life. First I find some work, then I find me a pretty wife. Signs on all the doors saying, oh, Irish need apply. So I put my brogues to walking, don't know where and don't know why. I'm stuck on 6 and Porter in a row house on the corner, working bloody hard for hardly any pay.
My Irish Radio, make my Irish Radio your Irish Radio. Well, as a matter of fact, you did just that because you're here and you see this and it's happening. Thanks for being here. My Irish Radio, 24/7, the best Celtic music. We got shows from Seattle, from Louisiana, here in the Metro Detroit area, and everywhere in between. So thanks for joining us. And we like to talk to musicians and artists and authors. And today we're doing exactly that. We are talking to an author. There's a new book out. Literally, we're here, April Fool's Day. And this just came out yesterday. And it's called, well, very appropriately, Timing is Everything. So there you go. We're going to talk about that. Our author, Timothy Bernard Carr. Timothy.
Hi, Jamie.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
All right, so fun. We're going to talk about the book, and this is your second
published book. Yes.
And we'll talk about that and then the things to come. But before we do that, Tim, tell me about your childhood.
My childhood.
Which is actually a little bit germane to the motivations for writing these books.
I guess it could be.
The experience. And all right. So, tell me about your childhood.
Okay, so I grew up in a town called Warren, Michigan, by 8 Mile Road.
All right.
And Irish-American family through and through. And an Irish grandma that we visited that was born in Ireland. And she's got a story on her own. Actually helped fight in the Civil War of Ireland in 1921.
Ooh.
But yeah, so we grew up in a very normal American family, playing sports. It lived in a time, as you did, where all the neighborhoods had kids and played, and we made up games and played baseball all the time. And so it was a thing that was a great childhood, actually. I didn't know I was poor. I didn't know, we had 7 kids in a 900 square foot house, so 7 people. And my 3 brothers and I were in 1 bedroom. Yeah. And we had just a great childhood, I thought.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Colleen was one of 8, and we to that house in Detroit, and we're like, there were 10 people in.
How do you do it?
You're like, they were chunked in like 4 and 4, but still, man, there's a lot of people. But so, full disclosure, we went to high school together.
Yes, we did.
So,
long ago.
So
ran track together.
Yeah. So
we did not play baseball together, but
no, I wasn't a baseball guy. So
neither. I ended up not being a baseball guy either. I wasn't good enough.
Track and cross country. That was it for me. That was
you were good at it.
That was all I could manage.
Yeah, you were good.
You were actually. I would tell people stories about you, and the one time you ran the high hurdles because I'm like 6'1".
Yeah.
You're not quite that tall.
No, I'm not quite even 5'6".
But you're very, very fast, and you were very, very fast.
Those high hurdles scared me.
But you did it, and because you're not that tall of a guy, so you purposely knocked each and every one.
It was easier.
If I'm not going to trip on it, I'm just going to.
Well, if I couldn't make the first one, I'm not going to make any of the rest. So I just said, that was it.
Up through. But anyway, all right. So you are very into Irish genealogy.
Yes.
Genealogy in general,
yes.
But very focused because of your heritage and your wife's heritage. Again, disclosure, my friend since 5th grade.
Right.
4th grade.
I also went to high school with us.
Yeah, and went to the same high school. So you guys are both very much into the Irish culture and heritage. Do you go down other roads, or is in the genealogy is the Irish your gig?
What I did in the beginning of the genealogy, after I did my family, I was doing as a charity type thing. I was giving back. I go to our church here in Birmingham and do like people that were 70, 80 years old had no idea about their heritage, and I would do those. And so I'd get into all different types of European genealogy. Yeah. And then I even did some work for a couple Hollywood guys from It's Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh.
Charlie Day and Rob McElhenney.
Yeah.
And bringing it to full circle, Rob McAnally's dad and I are friends now because of what the work we did. And he actually was one of the editors on this book.
Oh,
yeah. So I've never got into like Latin America or Africa or anything like that, but I've done pretty much anything you can do in Europe.
Okay, fair play. Because my family branches, my dad's side 100% Irish, mom's side 100% Polish.
Yeah, done a lot of Polish,
and we have some cool stuff on my Polish side.
Oh yeah,
and then like my grandma's second husband, after my biological grandfather passed away, she got remarried a handful of years later, and that guy had stories to tell.
Oh boy,
he was like an ambulance driver, and it was like in communist Poland,
Now, there's some stories there.
Yeah, there's great stuff. So, and that's really what motivated you to doing the genealogy and just kind of searching your soul, right?
Sure,
finding yourself, which is what led you to your first book.
Right.
So the first book was what?
The first book ended up being called Rocky Road to America.
But it really wasn't supposed to be a book.
No, it wasn't supposed to be a book. I had done all the genealogy research. I started in 1999, and I was getting a little like antsy about the output. It's just names and dates, and what do you do with that? So with the advent of the internet and Google and all that, so you start searching on what was going on at the times that these people lived.
Yeah.
And invariably I found hits. I found interesting things that people were doing. And I think I said, there's a book here. And I've never been a writer. I was a finance guy and all that. But all I had to do was write one chapter about that event and then go to the next.
Sure.
And so that's what I did chronologically. And I just found some interesting stories. And I thought.
And that tied in with the time around your family.
Exactly. But they were real too.
Okay. So, if your ancestors were involved in them,
but it had to fill out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big fan of historical fictional novels.
Sure.
One of my favorite authors is Edward Rutherford, who wrote 2 books on Ireland, and Michael Crichton, they do this thing where they have a family tree in the beginning of the book, and then they write the history of something through these fictional family trees.
All right.
So I wrote my book that way. But it wasn't fictional. These were people who were real. The events were real.
Those were your peeps, yeah.
But I had to fill out the story a little bit. So that's where the historical fictional comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And this book here is going to be historical fiction too. But it's important to me to be many facts in the book. So many, many, many things are factual. The element that changed it all was the time travel and what if you could do something different.
That's for the second book.
That's for the second book.
So, but the first book. And what was the title of the first one?
Rocky Road to America.
Rocky Road to America.
So how did everyone in my family get here? And
that went out. That's been out for a while.
Oh yeah, that's been out 10 years now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sophomore. So it's time for that sophomore pitch.
Yeah, it took a little while.
So, but you've done a lot of genealogy from here to there, and you've traced like yours and Jennifer's roots further and further back because you've gotten better at it and better at it.
Yeah, and there's more information.
How far back have you taken your genealogy and or Jen's?
My big one, mine goes back to the 1500s with a famous Irish chieftain called Red Hugh O'Donnell.
Okay,
so his goes back. That goes that far back. Jen also goes back to Irish royalty in the O'Connor family.
Mm-hmm.
So these things go back pretty far. Now, if you're not tied to a famous family, most of the Irish records were burned in fires in the 1800s, so it's really hard to go that far back. But on my wife's family too, on her dad's side, she goes back to the 1600s just in America alone.
Wow.
So a very rich family history when you can find someone like that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool. So people that you've worked with doing their trees for them, what's the furthest back you've gone for somebody?
I've made it back to like
crap, how'd we find that?
Yeah, like the kings from the Tudors dynasty. So you're talking 11th, 12th century.
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty far back. Yeah, you can't really break through, I think, to the 900 ADs, 800 ADs, but I typically can get back to 1500, 1400s on most families.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So the first Rocky Road to America, a lot of genealogy between here and there.
Yep.
And then what spawned the idea for timing is everything. So that's the book, which kind of plays into a couple of podcasts here, right? It's My Irish Radio, and we play the Irish music and talk about Irish stuff. And then Detroit City of Champions, all based around 1935 and the 33 championships that were won in Detroit at that time with people like Ty Cobb, Mickey Mantle. These players here were still very integral in the sports around that time. So what led you to this book?
So interesting enough, I came up with the concept all the way back to 2019. And I remember drawing up a outline and a quick synopsis of what I wanted to try to do with this book. And again, I wanted it to be historical fiction. I wanted it to be baseball driven. I wanted to have an Irish flavor, but the outline that was back in 2019 was nothing like the end product. And then what happened was after 2019, as we all know, was COVID, which you would think would be a good time to write, but it was we took our family in, and we had it was not a good time to do anything. And then I became a part-time caregiver for my sister-in-law who had Alzheimer's. So it just sat on the shelf for a long time. And we kind of freed up last September.
The kids get a little older.
Kids got older.
They're getting done with college, getting through college. And
I sat and I said, I should look at that outline again. And I actually wrote the book in 3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From September to December. And I've been doing the editing and trying to understand the modern way of publishing a book ever since,
Yeah. Well, publishing today is very interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's is this self-published?
No, I went through KDP at Amazon.
Okay.
But I also had some help along the way. So like I had mentioned earlier, I had Rob McElhenney's dad edit this book. I actually swapped him. I did his wife's genealogy, and then he did this for me.
Fair play.
And then I had a company that helped with the transition to Amazon and also some of the marketing that goes on that I was clueless about.
Yeah, you're like, oh, really? You got to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Barcode? What?
Yeah, and that's a company called Elite Authors, and they were fantastic, actually. Yeah.
All right. So this is based. It's Detroit
Based
set
in Detroit.
Okay, tell me about the lead character here, because it's only been out a day, and I just got the copy in my hand 5 minutes ago.
That's right.
Tell me about the lead character.
So I have an Irish American gentleman named Mark Killeran.
Oh, I like that name.
Yeah, who came to the Tigers in the mid 70s.
All right,
after the Vietnam War.
Okay,
and
how much realistic fiction? How much realistic is in here?
In the main character?
At all.
There's a lot of realism in this.
Okay.
A lot of the events I'm talking about were absolutely true.
Okay.
But because I was trying to work an angle of redemption, this book, I'm going to say that word again later.
All right.
The actual outputs were different than reality.
Fair play. So Killeran.
Yeah. Killeran's, he ends up being a Tiger executive, working up the ladder from a sales ticket guy.
All right.
And he makes it to assistant general manager by 2003. His problem as he went to the Vietnam War, he had a brother with him. The brother dies, and it wrecks him for the rest of his life. So he never achieves the success he should have. He ends up being a regular at the Gaelic League, which me and you both know about. and
there's a session on tonight. We might be heading over there.
And so he in the beginning of the book, it's more about the failure of his life, his marriage, his kids, everything. But also it correlates with the failure. And I picked 2003 for a reason. It was the worst season the Detroit Tigers ever had.
Oh, yeah. That was
they almost broke the record of many losses in a season.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize until I looked back at it that the last 10 games or so, it was very crucial for them to win almost every single game so they wouldn't break the record. So I do a game-by-game analysis.
And so that's factual.
That's factual, too. Everything in there is factual. And at the end of that chapter, it's basically the Tigers were terrible. My main character, Mark Killeran, is in bad shape. But they didn't break the record for futility.
Okay.
So there's a light there.
There's a glimmer.
There's a glimmer of hope.
And if people know the next year.
Yeah. And then they get
made
Jim Leland.
They made it to did they make it to the World Series?
No,
next year?
A couple years after that. But they hired Leland and got Verlander and all that. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it just sets up the book, because when I talk about the rest of the characters in the book, they all had flaws or misconceptions.
Okay.
That I was trying to basically right some wrongs.
Okay.
And so the first right That's why I set up the book that way in the beginning, was to show the Tigers also, as bad as they were, could come back that well.
Timing is everything.
That's right.
All right. So how do we? But he time travels. So he's in the 2020s, and he travels back to.
Yeah, he's in 2003.
2003. All right, so the early 2000s.
So first thing he travels back to, and again,
that's what I thought.
The way I have the vehicle of the 2003. I mean,
the
vehicle is it's kind of weird, but it's an old dusty closet in the bottom of Tiger Stadium.
Okay.
And there's a light, and he goes in there and checks what that light was, and then he just automatically ends up time traveling.
And then where's the travel take him to? What era does it?
The first one goes back to and again, it's a story of redemption. So it wasn't baseball per se, even though this guy did play baseball. But it went back to Jim Thorpe in 1912.
Okay.
So he just wins all the Olympics records in 1912 in Stockholm, and if we know the story, he gets them all stripped. Because he played a little bit of professional baseball in the summer.
Yeah.
So what I tried to do was say, okay, this guy, so he's clueless. How the hell did I get to Oklahoma in 1912, and why am I here? And
did they ever restore his medals to him?
They eventually did, but it was only a few.
They did. It wasn't
that long ago.
It was posthumously.
It was just a few years ago.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
So
it's things that piss me off about America.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
All right. Keep going.
But the real story evolves around another famous name, Amos Alonzo Stagg, who was the football coach for Jim Thorpe, and also had many other players play in professional sports that he didn't want anyone to find out about.
Right.
So they hoodwinked Jim Thorpe, was known to not be that smart or sharp or savvy, and they hoodwinked him into giving up all his medals. There was a rule book that they hid, the Sweden Stockholm Olympic rule book, that said if anyone's got a problem with anything, they got to make a complaint within 30 days. So it was like a year later that they did this to him.
Right.
So I took that fact, and
that was reality.
That was reality.
Okay, fair play.
And I took the fact, and I had this guy figure out, well, I'm stuck in 1912. How am I going to get out of here? And he runs into Jim Thorpe and whatever, and so he figures out a way. If I do something good, maybe I'll get to go home. So he makes his case in New York City to the athletic. It was under AAU then, and he makes a case. Which again, that guy was real. That was where the decision was made. But he comes in and makes a case, and saves it for him.
Fair play.
And so he ends up in another time travel. This is the only time he didn't travel into Detroit, but he ends up in a time travel in New York, and he ends up then in 1933 Detroit.
Okay.
Now.
Which is the advent of the City of Champions seasons.
It is, yeah. Now, that's just a coincidence, I think, because what we're going to talk about is the Tigers becoming very good.
Yeah.
And they were very good anyway.
Yeah.
But you'll see what I mean by that. 33 just worked from the timing point of view.
Sure.
But it also worked for the next event, which was involving Babe Ruth.
Okay.
So the main character wakes up and he said, well, this looks like Tiger Stadium, or, but it wasn't, because it was at that time, it was Navin Field.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And
great stadium,
and
Navin Field.
It didn't look like Tiger Stadium at all.
Yeah.
So he's very clueless.
Kind of familiar.
Yeah, kind of familiar. But he gets his bearings, and then he figures out something, and he listens. He wants to go talk to Frank Navin, the owner, and he listens to what's going on, and they're hearing this true story again about Frank Navin wanting to poach Babe Ruth from the Yankees.
Yeah.
Because Babe Ruth was not going to be allowed to be the manager of the Yankees, which Babe Ruth was incensed about in real life, because every good player back then became a manager. And basically the owner's like, you're not a good role model. You can't be. And so,
come on, steaks and cigars for everybody.
So Navin calls him. Everything I'm about to say until I don't is going to be real. Navin calls Babe Ruth. He's in San Francisco waiting for a boat to Hawaii for an exhibition games. And Babe Ruth, being gregarious and like Navin, what do you mean you want to hire me? Why don't we talk when I get back from Hawaii? Which Navin was a notorious hothead. His phone, throws it. It never calls him again. So I have my Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
Mark Killeran.
Killeran
Steps in, and he comes up with a plan. So on the way back from Hawaii, he's back in San Francisco. Mark Killeran devises a plan to go there. And this is where it gets a little creative. At the same time in 1933, there was a young minor leaguer in San Francisco playing for the Pacific Coast League named Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio, still very stylish, very, good looking, and,
Yeah.
So he buys him a suit, tells him to meet him at the bar, brings him to meet Babe Ruth, doesn't tell him why. And they meet and whatever. And then he leaves. And then Mark Killeran tells Babe, listen, I know what's going to happen here. The Yankees are going to sign him next year.
Oh, yeah, because,
And he's going to be the face of the franchise because he's everything opposite you. He's smooth, suave, good looking. And that incenses.
Did Killeran put him in the suit too?
Yeah.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah.
He might actually shape some of that image.
Yeah.
Up.
He might have. And so Babe Ruth gets mad, and then they call Navin, and he goes on with the Tigers.
Fair play.
So that's how he gets the Tigers.
There you are. So it's fun. That's the truth and the fiction weaving together, and he's seeking his own redemption.
Yeah. Right.
And that's we don't want to give away too much, right?
No, I mean it is his redemption is a little different though. He was at the end of his playing career anyway.
Yeah.
So he plays the next year. They do.
So I'm talking about Killeran's and his redemption.
Right. His redemption. He's trying to do the right thing so he can get back to 2003.
Yeah.
But he's also very excited about being around these giants. So he's loving it. Babe Ruth becomes a incredible manager actually for the Tigers and puts them on a dynasty run.
Yeah.
So the Detroit City Champions is 34-35.
Yep.
But this one goes even longer. But there's a reason why it goes longer. Part of it is because Babe Ruth becomes an incredible manager. And now he's known for being one of the greatest baseball players and baseball managers.
Okay.
So there's a dynasty being created.
That's fun.
So the next thing that happens is Ty Cobb is known primarily because of one guy.
There's a lot of ups and downs on Ty.
Yeah, and there's one guy was the guy who really made him out to be just an absolute racist, horrible human being.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is he was no more racist than anyone from that era. But he was also very favorable to black baseball players at the time. In fact, he threw out the first pitch at Hamtramck Stadium when they moved there, the Negro League team, the Detroit Stars. And he was actually talking. There's a couple.
That was the Negro League.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's
and
Detroit Stars.
So there's a couple stories in there that even go back to 1905 that were real. That Ty Cobb was in favor of blacks playing in major leagues, and I think that goes back to his competitive spirit. He wants to play against the best.
Sure. Yeah. Fair.
So I have Mark Killeran convince Babe to hire Ty Cobb as the president of the Tigers. So there's a two-headed giant combo here of Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth. And the plan is for them to go to the American League's brass and convince them to break down the color barrier now,
nice.
not in 1947.
Yeah, wow.
And so there's a whole rigmarole of how they did that. And it's interesting, but not necessarily interesting for this conversation. But they actually accomplish it. But before they...
For your book.
Yeah, in the book. In 1934 or 5, one of those. Okay. But because Killeran knows the history, he knows who all the great black ball players were. Turkey Stearns, Oscar Charleston, Satchel Paige. He
stack the deck.
He stacked the deck. He stacks the deck. He gets 4 of the best.
That's not redemption. That's cheating.
That's genius. That's genius. But it's redemption. I think you'll see why for the black players. But Mark Killeran stacks the deck, and they tear off on a dynasty. And they win almost every year.
I bet.
For the 1930s and into the 40s.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, Killeran, you minx.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess what happens then is Ty Cobb goes even a step further. He was in World War I, and he actually has the brass, so to speak, to go to the brass of the military before World War II or during World War II, and says, look, we've integrated baseball. Why can't we integrate the military? Because they didn't fight side by side.
Sure, yeah.
So he convinces them to try it as a thing, as a test case. And he hires Oscar Charleston, who was well-known, but at the end of his baseball career, but well-respected. And it works. And by the end of World War II, basically the military is integrated. And this is where the redemption comes in. So you can imagine after World War II, the whole country was euphoric, and it took off into a great economic boom,
sure,
but mostly for white people. So in this sense, I'm saying, and I know a lot of this sounds utopic, but why not?
Sure.
I'm saying if they were accepted in baseball in the 30s and then accepted in the military in the 40s, they come out being respected in the 50s as well. So much so that the 1960s as a racial riot, horrible decade was a good decade. Everyone was prosperous, which then will tie into something related to John Kennedy. But before I get there, can I go a little bit further?
Sure. I don't want to spoil the book. I mean,
I don't care. It's fine with me, It's fun. But there's one more redemption.
I want people to read it.
Yeah. There's one more redemption. Okay, I'll go not as detailed. There's one more redemption related to my favorite ball player of all time, Mickey Mantle.
Okay.
So Mickey Mantle takes care of that. Now, going back to Mark Killeran, he has to figure out he's done all these things, but what he didn't do was save his brother who died in the Vietnam War. So during these 20 years while he's in the past, he's got to figure out how can he fix that. And so I come up with I probably won't go into detail on this, but just a rather interesting way to change the course of how the United States operates after World War II. Instead of the military industrial complex where everything was about find a war, it was more about using some money to help countries become true democratic countries, because it's been tested from years and years that democratic countries very rarely go to war against each other. So he takes that theory and goes to meet John Kennedy as a senator.
Fair enough.
In the 50s. Wow. And convinces him that this is the way that he should go.
This is the way.
And so then there's an event that happens.
Okay.
And Mark Killeran, I've already given up a lot of the book, but he gets on a plane that crashes. Everyone assumes he's gone. The next part of the book is that did the stuff that Mark Killeran do in those 20 years, did it work? And so I take everybody through the 60s and 70s into the 80s a little bit, and it shows if you didn't put so much money into the military industrial complex and wars, and you helped the world, there was no reason to kill John Kennedy, because that's what a lot of people blame that on.
All right.
So Kennedy actually doesn't get assassinated. He stops the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Which hopefully saves Mark's brother in time. And then RFK doesn't get shot.
Right.
MLK doesn't get shot.
Right.
So all those three become important in our country.
Marty, did you run into your parents?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't want any.
You're really changing.
What do they call that? It's a horrible thing that can happen to the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I go through that, and then I kind of make a surprise. I bring Mark Killeran back. So he didn't just die. He didn't go on that crash plane. And he comes back, and he's in 2003. And
don't call it a comeback.
Yeah, everything's different. And
everything's different.
And
all right.
I tie
we'll find out if his brother's there.
Yeah, and he'll find out if his brother's there, and then we'll find out what he wants to do next.
Okay.
Because now he spent 2 whole careers as a baseball guy. What would he do next? And that's
all right. So that is timing is everything. I hope we didn't give away too much.
Yeah.
But if you're into baseball, or if you're into, it's almost sci-fi. It's historical fiction,
travel,
realistic fiction.
Sure.
And, this hits a lot of different buttons for different folks.
Right.
So, it's not super long.
No. 200 pages or so.
It's you're not a very bright guy, so there's not really big words in here.
No, I try to keep them under 6.
6 letters.
No, it's all good. You went to high school with me, so you know.
No, it's Catholic school, boys. I talk the way I speak, and like my students are like, "What?" I'm like, "Look it up." I'm not explaining it to you. It's like, you, and they don't even have to get their computer. They can just connect on their watches now. They're little Dick Tracy watches.
Exactly.
And I tell them, "Oh, you're a little Dick Tracy watch." I have no idea what I'm talking about. We'll Google that and figure it out.
Well, they will, and they'll know. And
so
they'll still know way more than us because of that.
So, all right. So it's available now. Amazon. It's you can get the ebook. I'm sure the ebook and then the
ebooks out there,
book.
printed book, and then the hardcover is on Ingram Sparks.
Oh, you can actually get a hardcover if you want?
but it's on a different company. Amazon doesn't do it.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Who do I have in here? Jimmy Doom. And he put out a book, and he was talking about bootlegs.
Oh.
Right? Bootleg, when we were younger men, we would bootleg cassettes.
That's right.
Albums onto cassettes.
That's right.
It's in the world of AI and publishing. You got to keep your feelers and your out there. People they'll buy it, they'll scan it in, and they'll sell it.
I know.
It's nutty. It's
crazy.
nutty.
I think that's why I got that other company, to be honest,
To monitor.
at least
that
tell
for
me
you.
what the pitfalls are to look out for.
Yeah, because Jimmy Doom, he was like talking. He had just put out a book of short stories and poetry, and he was in here talking about it. Jimmy Doom, a Detroit. He was in the Almighty Lumberjacks of Death.
All right.
That was 80s punk shaved heads. Yeah, that was an interesting group of lads for sure. But Jimmy Doom was in Kill the Irishman.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. He had a
Good
part in Kill the Irishman.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that was filmed in Detroit, wasn't it?
Parts of it were, yeah. So he picked up a couple parts in that. And just more than just a scene filler. I think he had a couple speaking lines. Which was actually pretty cool. Anyway, but yeah, so watch that. That's crazy that you got to watch out for that.
It is crazy.
So this is centered in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Your world is immersed in the Irish culture.
Yes.
And heritage and genealogy and all that. And something that pulls both of those things together that I'm going to guess probably influenced the writing and the work that went into this, or made the work that went into this a little easier, is your work with the Irish American Baseball League of Superheroes, or what
Irish American Baseball Society.
Okay,
you're right. There is some ties to that.
So, because you're a baseball fan.
I'm a baseball fan,
and you're an Irish man.
It's a nonprofit group that basically supports baseball in Ireland with coaches and gear and things like that, but also does a lot of things on the state side.
Well, because they're trying, because baseball it's an American sport.
It's an American sport.
And everybody talks about football, soccer being the game, the world game. Because really, I mean, if you think about soccer, why is soccer the world game? You don't need anything.
No.
If you take a sweatshirt and tie it up into a ball, you got a ball and you're kicking it around.
That's right.
That's soccer.
That's right.
You don't need pads. You don't need helmets. You don't need the goofy oblong pigskin.
No money involved.
So
a couple rocks is goal, and
that's it. Yeah. Right. So soccer is why people say, why is it so prolific as well? Because
it can be done anywhere.
It's just so. I mean, as easy as tying up a shirt into a ball.
Right.
And it's primitive, but there's parts of the world that are that.
That's
needy.
Right.
That's how they find entertainment. I mean, we played with rocks and sticks when we were kids.
We've made up lots of games with that.
I don't know how kids survive today. I'm like, I played with rocks and sticks. I don't know. We were out on a eagle's nest on the corner of the block in a big empty field. That was the most fun we had. I got the cuts from the broken glass still. I got the scar. Anyway, but I really digressed there as to where we're going. But it's a different world. It's but no. So baseball, because you said that you fund the Irish American Baseball. What's it called? Irish American
Baseball Society.
Baseball Society.
Yeah.
Funds the baseball experience in Ireland.
Right.
Getting equipment to kids because it's not a very popular sport on the island, or is it?
So it is considered. This is the
hurling.
No, it's not. It's none of the big GAA sports.
Right.
So, the GAA runs all the major sports in Ireland. Baseball, the closest thing they have to baseball is a kids game called Rounders. Not the same, but very similar. And so they consider it a kids game. So nobody really wants to play it.
Sure.
But now with the World Baseball Classic and more, the internet, people see what's going on.
Yep.
And part of what our organization was trying to do, our founder, John Fitzgerald, was, and I got involved in the genealogy side of this.
Yeah.
Was show how important Irish people were to the start of baseball in the 1800s. Over 45% of the players in the 1800s were Irish.
Oh, wow. All right.
So I want the people...
Because they couldn't get a job doing anything else?
Yeah, well, because they came over from off the boat with nothing to do. So there's lots of circumstances that makes that true. Yeah. But regardless,
Not true.
some of the best players
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
You know, Dan Brothers,
Yeah.
Will Keeler.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many. But the people in Ireland don't know that. And the people in Ireland don't know today that a huge percentage of the ball players have some Irish heritage.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah. There's more Irish out of Ireland than
Yeah,
there is in Ireland.
right.
I mean, you know, but
and so our founder's vision was we have to get baseball popular in the Ireland, and he actually did more than just talk. He was involved in
Right.
the early 2000s, and he actually had some success in international play with Team Ireland.
Mhm.
And then it stopped. So now what we have is this stagnant period of time in Ireland where they can't even get out of the pool to be able to be eligible to be in the World Baseball Classic.
Oh wow.
So many other countries have bolted ahead of Ireland, and Ireland remains steadfast in their vision of trying to do it only with Irish citizens or very few dual citizens. Now, I understand that's a noble cause,
Right.
but everyone else is not doing that. Great Britain has 9 or 10 dual citizens from America, Czech Republic, Italy.
Well, you know, I'm sure there's
Yeah.
there's some people like us that are like, you know, my grandfather was Irish, and
Yeah.
I would love to play for the Irish
Right,
team, you
right.
know, and it's like,
Now, you do have to be at least a second generation, so you got to
Yeah.
have a grandparent that was
Yeah.
Irish. And but Ireland refuses to go
To
along,
go that
so they're
deep.
doing
Yeah.
like quota systems
Yeah.
against us. So
Yeah.
we're in battle with them a lot, Team Ireland, and I think we're trying to get that point across too politically.
but the sporting world in Ireland
Yes.
is so rich, and it's so self-contained. They don't really, you know. It'd be nice if they were involved in the world thing, 'cause
Yeah.
I'm sure they would do well and
Yeah.
expand the experience. But I mean, there's so many sports that are just so very
I
Irish
know.
and so definitively.
But the timing is getting in our favor because
Yeah.
football playing games in Europe all the time.
Yeah, the NFL doing
Yeah,
all
and
those
baseball-
European games, which are
Baseball's
whatever,
starting to come.
here or there. Yeah,
And there's a lot of talk right now of a baseball series coming up in Ireland.
yeah.
And if you tackle that with the growing popularity of the World Baseball Classic, I think we may be able to turn the tide.
Because that just happened not too
Yeah,
long ago.
right.
The Classic
And it's getting
was
more
just, a
popular.
month or two ago, right?
You know, so many countries involved, and
Yeah.
but here's the big kicker: if you can get into the right pool and get eligible for the World Baseball Classic, Major League Baseball will give you $300,000 to develop your youth leagues.
Wow. Okay.
So that's why people are going the short-term route of having
Yeah.
dual citizens,
Yeah.
and then they're going to grow organically.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
All right. So, Rocky Road to America
Mm-hmm.
from about 10 years ago.
Yep.
Timing is everything.
Yep.
From about 10 hours ago.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And then, so what's next, right? We talked a little bit before we cracked the mics.
Yeah.
There's an idea for another book that's a
Yeah.
prequel, sequel,
A prequel sequel. Yeah.
something or other.
I feel like I can start.
Commingling something.
Yeah. I feel the need to write more about my Ireland experience.
Okay, fair play.
And so I have an idea where the book would start a couple generations before this, and having that, what we said, those
So
guys.
what leads to Killeran?
Yeah,
and
right.
his,
Killeran
all right.
comes off the boat. What is he going to do in America?
Fair play.
He discovers baseball in the early 1860s, which at that time was more of a club sport.
Yeah.
And it was also very popularized during Civil War. So much to the point that the Union and the South would actually stop fighting for a while and they play baseball together.
Yeah.
So baseball became a popular sport right after the Civil War and led up to 1869 with the Cincinnati Reds being the first professional team. So I have this gentleman going through that world.
Okay.
And then I have him clashing somewhere
Like
with
a Killeran,
Killeran ancestor.
grandfather,
Yeah.
something like
And then
that.
I have just a thought that he could actually come up and meet the Mark Killeran here and whatever it entails. But then maybe use that time travel thing to actually go into the future. Because right now we live in a culture where sports is king. There's so much money to be made. There's so much popularity. But will it always be that way?
Yeah.
So will sports survive, say 100 years out?
Oh, okay.
And so I'm thinking of exploring that angle using the time travel vehicle.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what's on the horizon. But people now can just look for Timothy Carr, and timing is everything. your Amazonian bookseller.
Right. Yep.
Is that's the one-stop shop for it?
Yep.
You have a website?
I do have an author website. It's called my full name, Timothy Bernard Carr, author.com.
Okay.
And on there, you'll see the books that I've done, and also I have genealogy, believe it or not, I have genealogy-related poems that I do for families, too.
Oh, okay.
And that's something I never thought, I couldn't even read a poem in high school, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
But I've come up with that as another genealogy product I could sell.
Okay.
And it's turned out pretty good so far.
All right. So it's the Timothy Bernard Carr author.com.
Yep.
And that they can get a hold of genealogy if someone really wants to do some genealogy or pick your brain on that.
Yeah, my wife and I co-president a company called yourroots.com with a Z. That is a full-service genealogy company that we both run.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I told you, you got to do a podcast. It's My Irish Story. And then, but you help people learn their Irish stories.
Yeah,
and
I think it's a good one.
As you do their genealogy, you sit down with somebody and you tell them things they didn't know, and then a little bit of the history that happened along with the times their families were around here, they were doing this or that.
I agree with you.
I don't know, just saying.
I hear you.
I know a perfect studio you could do it in.
Yeah, I don't know where it is though. It's maybe too far from home.
I got a good farm.
No, it is a good idea though.
All right, just busting your chops, brother. Anything else we need to know? Timing is everything. That's it.
I appreciate the time.
All right, that was cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
My Irish Radio. It's your Irish Radio. Find it everywhere radios are sold. I don't know, something like that.
That's right.
But do all those podcast things and all those internet things and all the internet places. Like and subscribe and comment and sharing and all that. Tell a friend. The best thing you do. Tell a friend, right? So we do a little bit of talk on the videos, on interviews on YouTube, and they end up on Facebook. But the station is the music. So find it here, find it there, and tell a friend. So thanks a lot, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay.
First I find some work, then I find me a pretty wife. Signs on all the doors saying, oh, Irish need apply. So I put my bronze and walking, don't know where and don't know why.